Commander Teo had no choice but to crash his scout vessel on Kravox Prime. The planet was not on any human map that he knew. It was not a place where humans came to visit or to live. Teo had been traveling through space on a mission to find new worlds, but something had gone very wrong. The engines of his small ship started to make loud sounds. Red lights began to flash all around him in the cockpit. Teo tried to fix the problem, but there was no time. The planet below was growing larger and larger, coming closer and closer to his ship. The crash was violent and fast. Metal twisted and bent as the ship hit the ground hard. Dust and smoke filled the air all around the broken vessel. When everything became quiet again, Teo was still alive. His body hurt, and his head was dizzy, but he could move. He could think. He was alive on a world he did not know. Teo pulled himself out of the broken ship and looked around at what he could see. The landscape was strange and wild. There were tall red trees that grew in ways he had never seen before. The ground was dark, almost black, and it felt hard under his feet. The sky above was not blue like the sky on Earth. It was a light green color that made everything look different and wrong. This world was dangerous. Teo could feel it in his bones. This was a world that did not want humans here. He found an old research station not far from where his ship had crashed. The building was broken and empty, but it had walls that could keep him safe. It had doors that could close and lock. Teo brought things from his ship to the station. He brought water. He brought medicine. He brought weapons in case he needed to fight. Then he waited. He waited for a rescue ship that might come, or he waited to understand what this planet was and what lived on it. Every morning, Teo woke up early. The green sky became brighter. The air was cool and fresh. His body felt stiff and sore from sleeping on hard ground and from the crash. So he did what he had always done. He stretched his body. He moved his arms up high above his head. He bent his body down toward his toes. He moved one leg forward and pushed his body down to stretch the muscles in his legs. He did this every morning. It was something his mother had taught him long ago on Earth. It was something that helped him feel strong and ready for the day. Teo did not know that he was being watched. 3 young creatures watched Teo from the edge of the forest. They were Kravex, the native species of this planet. The 3 were cubs, which meant they were young and still learning about their world. Their bodies were shaped like earth cats, but much larger and much more dangerous. They had fur that was dark blue and black. They had teeth that were long and sharp. They had claws on their hands and feet that could cut through almost anything. But they were young, so they were not as big or as strong as the adult Kravex. The 3 cubs had names. The largest one was called Lissa. She was the leader of the 3. She was the one who made the decisions. The other 2 cubs were Rin and Zar. They were her brothers, but they were smaller and less brave than Lisa. All 3 of them had come to this area to hunt small animals for food. But then they saw something strange. They saw the human. Humans were not new to the Kravex. Other humans had come to this planet before. Those humans had been caught by hunters and killed. The Kravex saw humans as food, nothing more. Humans were small and weak. They could not fight well. They could not run fast enough to escape. A human was the kind of meal that could be caught easily and eaten with no trouble. But this human was different. Lisa watched with careful eyes as Teo stretched his body. She did not understand what he was doing. In Kravex society, stretching was not something that warriors did. Warriors ran and fought and hunted. They did not stand still and move their bodies slowly like this. Lisa could not explain what she was seeing to her brothers. The movements were smooth. The movements were careful. The movements looked almost like a dance, but not a happy dance. It looked like a dance of power and control. Teo reached his arms over his head and bent backwards slowly. His body made an arc shape. Then he came forward and bent down to touch his toes. Then he stepped one leg forward and pushed his weight down. His muscles stretched and extended. The cubs watched every single movement. They could not look away. Rin moved closer to Lissa and whispered to her. Was the human injured? Was he sick? Why was he moving like this? Lissa did not answer. She just watched. For many days, the cubs came back to watch Teo do his morning stretches. They hid in the bushes and behind the red trees. They made sure Teo could not see them. Every morning, they watched him stand up and move his body slowly and carefully. He would begin by moving his neck in circles, then his shoulders. Then he would stretch his arms and his back and his legs. Sometimes he would jump up and down and move very fast, punching the air in front of him like he was fighting an invisible enemy. The cubs found this very interesting. Lissa began to copy the movements when she was away from her brothers. She would stand in the forest and try to move her body the way the human moved. At first, her body did not want to bend the way she wanted. The Kravek's body was built for hunting and fighting, not for stretching, but Lissa was determined. She wanted to understand this strange behavior. She wanted to learn what the human was teaching without knowing he was teaching anyone at all. One morning, Lissa was so interested in watching that she made a small sound. She stepped on a branch on the ground, and the branch broke with a crack. The sound was loud in the quiet morning. Teo heard it. He stopped moving. He stood very still. He looked in the direction of the sound. The three cubs froze. They did not move. They did not breathe. This was the moment when Teo would reach for his weapons and try to kill them. Or this was the moment when they would run away as fast as they could. But Teo did something different. He simply looked at the place where they were hiding. He saw the eyes of Lissa watching him from the bushes. For a moment, predator and prey looked at each other across the space between them. Neither one moved. Neither one attacked. Then Teo slowly began to stretch again, as if the cubs were not there at all. He pretended he had not seen them. He continued his stretching routine from the beginning. The cubs watched, and from that morning on, they came back every single day to see the human and his strange, beautiful movements. Teo discovered the cubs in his own way, by accident and by choice. He had always known something was watching him from the forest. A good soldier learns to feel when eyes are on him. Teo could sense the presence of living things in the darkness beyond the research station. But instead of fear, he felt curiosity. Whatever was watching him was not attacking. Whatever was watching him had been patient for many days and many mornings. One morning, Teo decided not to pretend anymore. He finished his stretching routine as usual. But this time, instead of going back inside the station, he walked slowly toward the forest. His hands were open and empty. He showed that he carried no weapons. In many languages and many cultures across the galaxy, this simple gesture meant the same thing. It meant peace. It meant no fight. Teo moved forward step by step, slowly and without sudden movements. In the bushes ahead, he saw movement. 3 pairs of eyes looked at him. They were large eyes, bright eyes, eyes that belonged to hunters. The eyes of a hunter knew danger. The eyes of a hunter knew how to see fear in prey. But these eyes were not looking at him with hunger. They were looking at him with confusion and with something that might have been wonder. Lissa stepped out from behind the red trees. She was large for a young cub, but still small compared to an adult Kravex. Her dark blue and black fur shone in the morning light. Her claws were visible and sharp, but she did not move to attack. She walked forward slowly, matching the speed of Teo's approach. Rin and Zar stayed behind, more nervous than their sister, more uncertain about this strange human who walked toward them without fear. Teo and Lissa stopped a few meters apart from each other. They studied each other carefully. Teo saw a beautiful young creature, dangerous but not yet fully grown into her power. Lisa saw something she could not explain. She saw a weak creature in terms of size and strength, but she saw something else too. She saw confidence. She saw purpose. She saw the same thing she saw in the morning stretching ritual. She saw control. Teo spoke very slowly. He used words from the standard galactic common language, which was used by many different kinds of beings across the stars. "I am Teo," he said. His voice was calm and peaceful. "I will not hurt you. I will not hunt you. I am not your enemy." Lisa did not understand the words, not really, but she understood the tone of voice. She understood the peaceful sound of his speech. She moved closer to Teo. She sniffed the air, catching his scent. She circled around him slowly, examining him from all angles. Rin and Zar watched nervously, ready to run if Teo made one sudden move. Then something amazing happened. Lisa sat down on the ground in front of Teo. In the language of the Kravex, this was a sign of respect and acceptance. She was showing that she did not see him as food. She was showing that she saw him as something worth knowing. Teo understood this, though he did not know exactly how he understood. It was something he felt in his body and in his heart. Over the next weeks, a strange friendship began to grow between the human and the three cubs. Teo would wake up early and do his stretching routine. The cubs would come and sit and watch. Teo did not make them leave. The cubs did not try to attack him. This routine became normal for all four of them. It became expected. It became welcome. One morning, Teo decided to do something new. After he finished his own stretching routine, he called to Lisa. He showed her very slowly how to stretch her front legs by standing and bending down to the ground. At first, Lisa did not want to follow his example. The position felt strange and wrong, but Lisa was curious, and curiosity can be stronger than doubt. She tried to copy Teo's movements. Her body was built differently from a human body. Her legs were longer and shaped differently. Her back did not bend the same way, but when Lisa stretched, something good happened inside her body. Her muscles felt stronger. Her body felt more ready. She felt the same thing that Teo felt every morning. Rin and Zar wanted to try the stretches too. Teo taught them slowly and carefully. He showed them that stretching did not make them weak. Instead, stretching made them stronger. Stretching made their bodies work better. Stretching was a form of preparation, just like warriors prepared for battle, just like hunters prepared for the hunt. Teo began to teach them more and more. He taught them about breathing. He taught them how to breathe slowly and deeply while stretching. He taught them that breathing was important. Breathing could calm a nervous body. Breathing could make fear smaller. Breathing could help a warrior become ready for anything that might come. One day, Teo taught them what he called the fighter pose. He showed them how to stand with legs apart and arms up, bent and ready. He told them in simple words that this pose was about being ready. It was about standing strong. It was about showing the world that a warrior was prepared for any challenge. He did not know that this simple stretching routine would become one of the most important things in their culture one day. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into more weeks. The three cubs grew and became stronger. Their stretching routine became more and more skilled. They could move their bodies in ways they could not move before. Lisa became especially good at the stretches. Her body was flexible and strong at the same time. She could hold difficult positions longer than her brothers. She could move through the stretching sequence with grace and power. Teo and the cubs developed a language together that was part words, part sounds, and part movements. Lisa learned to understand what Teo wanted by listening to his voice and watching his body. Teo learned to understand what the cubs wanted by watching their ears and their tails and their eyes. They were teaching each other without really knowing how much they were teaching. Then one morning, something changed. Teo was finishing his morning stretches when he felt a shadow fall across the ground. He turned around slowly. Behind him stood Kira, the mother of the 3 cubs. She was an adult Kravex warrior, large and powerful, and covered in the scars of many battles. Her eyes were studying Teo with great attention. Her claws were extended, ready to strike if needed. Teo did not run. He did not reach for a weapon. Instead, he took a deep breath. He stood in the fighter pose that he had taught the cubs. He held his arms up and ready. He stood with his legs strong and firm beneath him. He was showing Kira that he was prepared, but he was not attacking. He was showing her through his body what his words could not explain. Kira watched. And in that moment, something changed in the world. Something new was beginning to grow between species that should never have met at all. Kira stood very still, watching Teo in the fighter pose. She did not know what this pose meant. She did not understand why the human would stand like this in front of a warrior who could kill him with a single movement. But she watched, and as she watched, she saw something that she could not ignore. She saw her 3 cubs standing beside the human, copying his pose exactly. They were standing in perfect form, their young bodies strong and ready, their eyes focused and clear. In Kravex culture, a mother defended her cubs with her life. A mother would fight anyone or anything that tried to hurt her young. But looking at her cubs now, they were not in danger. They were learning something. The human had not harmed them. The human had taught them. Kira walked slowly around Teo, examining him from all angles, just as Lissa had done weeks before. But Kira was looking for something different. She was looking for signs of weakness. She was looking for signs that the human was dangerous in some hidden way. She was looking for reasons to see him as a threat that needed to be stopped. What she found instead was discipline. She saw the way Teo held his pose without shaking. She saw the strength in his body that was built not just from his muscles, but from his mind. She saw control. She saw purpose. She saw preparation. Teo did not move. He kept holding the fighter pose, his breath steady and slow. He knew that any sudden movement could cause Kira to attack. He knew that showing fear would invite violence, so he remained calm. He remained ready. He remained respectful. After what felt like a very long time, Kira nodded her head once. It was a small movement, but it meant something important. It meant she recognized what Teo had done for her cubs. It meant she was allowing this strange friendship to continue. Then she turned and walked back into the forest, disappearing into the shadows like she had never been there at all. Over the following weeks, the presence of Kira changed everything. She would come sometimes to watch Teo teach the cubs. She would stand at the edge of the clearing, silent and observant. And slowly, over time, she began to understand what was happening. The human was not weakening her cubs. He was making them stronger in ways that were new and different from the traditional ways of the Kravex. Teo began to teach them more advanced techniques. He taught them about balance. He taught them about using an opponent's strength against them. He taught them philosophy. He told them in simple words that a true warrior did not just have strong muscles. A true warrior had a strong mind. A true warrior thought before acting. A true warrior showed respect to opponents, even in battle. These ideas were not completely new to Kravex culture, but the way Teo taught them was new. The human made the ideas simple and clear. He showed the cubs that strength was not just about being bigger and more powerful. Strength was about knowing yourself. Strength was about being ready. Strength was about making smart choices in the moment of danger. Lissa became the star student. She was fast to learn. She was strong and flexible. She threw herself into the lessons with complete dedication. She began to teach her brothers when Teo was not watching. She corrected their form when they made mistakes. She pushed them to work harder and to think more carefully about what they were learning. One day, Kira came closer than she had ever come before. She stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as Teo taught the cubs a new series of movements. These movements were designed to build speed and power at the same time. Teo called them dynamic stretches. He moved quickly from one position to another, his body flowing like water, his movements controlled and precise. Lissa copied him perfectly. Then Rin tried. Then Zar tried. Each cub was becoming more skilled with each passing day. Teo was pleased with their progress. When the lesson ended, Kira stepped forward into the clearing. She was not threatening. She was not showing her claws. She was simply standing there with her eyes on Teo. Then she did something remarkable. She tried to copy the dynamic stretch sequence that Teo had just taught. An adult Kravek's body was not as flexible as a young one. Kira's large frame could not bend and twist the way the cubs could bend and twist. But she tried. She moved through the sequence slowly, using her strength to push her body into positions that felt strange and difficult. When she finished, she was breathing hard, and her muscles were shaking with effort. Teo approached Kira slowly. He showed her, with gentle movements of his hands, how she could modify the stretches to work better with her larger body. He showed her that the exercises did not have to be done exactly the same way for every person or every creature. The important thing was to push your body gently and to listen to what your body needed. Kira listened carefully. She tried again, this time following Teo's suggestions. This time, the stretches felt better. This time, she could feel her body becoming stronger instead of hurting from the effort. From that day forward, Kira came to the clearing every morning. She joined Teo and her 3 cubs in the stretching routine. She worked hard to learn and to improve, and she began to bring other warriors with her. Word was spreading through the Kravek settlement. Warriors were talking about what Kira was doing. Warriors were asking questions about the human and the strange ritual that made bodies stronger and minds clearer. Some warriors were interested, some warriors were suspicious, and some warriors were very, very angry about the idea that a human was teaching Kravek's warriors anything at all. In the great hall of the Kravek settlement, Elder Torax sat and listened to reports about the human. Torax was the oldest and strongest warrior in the entire clan. He had fought in more battles than anyone could remember. He had killed more enemies than any other warrior alive. And he did not like the idea that anyone, human or Kravex, was teaching his people something new. Torax called for Kira to come to the Great Hall. He demanded to know what was happening at the research station. He wanted to know why Kira was spending time with a human instead of hunting prey and protecting her territory. He wanted to know why she was bringing other warriors to learn from this strange creature. Kira stood tall and proud. She explained what the human had taught her. She explained how the stretches made her body stronger and her mind clearer. She explained that the human had brought no harm to her cubs or to her people. She explained that the human was a teacher, not an enemy. But Elder Torax did not care about explanations. He saw only that Kira was breaking tradition. He saw only that a human was changing the ways of the Kravex. And he could not allow this to continue. Torax made a decision that would change everything. He called for a trial by combat. If Teo could survive a battle against a worthy opponent, he would be allowed to stay and to continue teaching. But if Teo lost, both he and Kira would be cast out of the clan forever. They would be marked as traitors who had abandoned the ways of their ancestors. Kira went to Teo and told him what was coming. She told him about the trial. She told him that he would have to fight. She told him that he would have to win, or everything they had built together would be destroyed. Teo listened to her words. Then he took a deep breath. He walked out into the clearing where the cubs were waiting, and he began his morning stretching routine, moving slowly and carefully, preparing himself for the greatest challenge of his life. The day of the trial came with gray clouds covering the green sky. The entire Kravex settlement gathered in a great stone amphitheater that had been carved out of the living rock long ago. The amphitheater was large enough to hold thousands of warriors and their families. Every Kravex who could walk had come to watch the battle. This was a moment of great importance. This was a moment that would decide the future of their species and their traditions. Teo walked into the center of the amphitheater with Kira beside him. The human looked small and fragile compared to the massive warriors who surrounded him. Many in the crowd laughed. They thought this would be over in moments. They thought the human would fall dead in the first attack. They thought Elder Torax would prove once and for all that humans had no place in their world. Elder Torax stood on the other side of the amphitheater. He was enormous, standing at least 3 times as tall as Teo. His muscles were huge and powerful. His scars covered his entire body, each one a story of a battle he had won. His eyes were cold and dark. He did not see Teo as a real opponent. He saw him as a distraction from the true ways of the Kravex. The leader of the ceremony stood between them. She raised her hand high in the air. When her hand came down, the battle would begin. There would be no rules except this. The battle would end when one fighter could not continue. It would end when one fighter gave up or could not stand anymore. It would end when one fighter showed that they were defeated. The leader's hand came down. Torax moved forward with the speed of a lightning strike. He covered the distance between them in seconds. His massive claws were extended, ready to tear into the human. His mouth was open, showing his terrible teeth. This was the attack of a warrior who had killed hundreds of enemies. This was the attack of a predator that had never known defeat. But Teo was not where Torax expected him to be. The human moved with fluid grace to the side. He stepped to the left, using the momentum of Torax's charge against him. The massive warrior crashed past him and had to turn around for another attack. The crowd gasped. The human had moved like nothing they had ever seen before. Torax charged again, this time more carefully. He did not want to miss again. But again, Teo moved. He stepped to the side. He ducked beneath a swinging claw. He used his understanding of where Torax's weight was going and moved out of the way. Every movement was smooth and controlled. Every movement flowed from one position to another with perfect balance. This continued for what felt like a very long time. Torax attacked again and again. The warrior was strong and fast, strong enough and fast enough to kill almost any opponent he had ever faced. But Teo was not trying to be stronger. Teo was not trying to be faster. Teo was trying to be smarter. Teo used the principles he had taught the cubs. He used balance and positioning. He used breathing to stay calm when fear tried to enter his mind. He used preparation and discipline. Every moment of his morning stretches, every exercise, every moment of training had prepared him for exactly this. His body knew what to do because his mind had practiced the principles many times before. Torax was getting tired. The massive warrior was breathing hard. His attacks were becoming slower. His charges were less explosive. Torax was not used to fighting opponents who would not stand still. He was not used to fighting opponents who would not try to match his strength with their own strength. Then Teo did something that shocked everyone watching. He stopped running. He stopped moving away. He stood still in the middle of the amphitheater. He put his hands down. He was showing Torax that he was no longer trying to escape. He was showing that he would accept an attack. It looked like surrender. Torax saw the human standing still. The warrior took this as a sign of victory. Torax charged one final time, moving with all the power he had left, his claws extended. His roar echoed through the amphitheater. This was the killing blow. But at the last moment, Teo moved with perfect timing. He did not dodge to the side. Instead, he dropped to the ground and pushed his body forward under Torax's attack. He used the warrior's own momentum. He used the path that Torax's body was already taking. He became like water flowing under a stone, and the stone crashed into empty space where the human had been. Torax fell. He crashed hard onto the ground of the amphitheater. The impact was so powerful that dust rose up in a cloud. The massive warrior lay on his side, unable to move for a moment. The crowd was completely silent. No one had ever seen anything like this. No one had ever seen Elder Torax fall. Teo could have attacked now. He could have ended the battle. He could have shown everyone that he had defeated the greatest warrior in the Kravex clan. But he did not. Instead, Teo walked over to Torax and offered his hand to help the massive warrior stand up. Torax looked at the small human hand reaching toward him. He looked at Teo's face. He saw no cruelty there. He saw no anger. He saw only respect and honor. Slowly, Torax reached up and took Teo's hand. The human pulled, and the massive warrior stood. Torax looked at Teo for a long moment. Then he did something that no one expected. He bowed his head slightly. In the language of the Kravex body, this was the highest sign of respect and acceptance. It meant Torax saw Teo not as an enemy or a weakness, but as a true warrior. It meant Torax had learned something today. The amphitheater exploded in sound. Warriors howled and roared. The crowd was celebrating. They had seen a miracle. They had seen a human defeat an elder, not through strength, but through wisdom and discipline. They had seen the power of preparation and control. Lysa was jumping up and down with excitement. Rin and Zar were roaring along with the crowd. Kira was standing tall with pride in her eyes. She had believed in Teo, and he had proven her faith was correct. Teo moved to the center of the amphitheater and raised his hands up to the crowd. He was not celebrating a victory in the way warriors usually celebrated. He was honoring the moment. He was showing gratitude for being allowed to prove himself. He was showing respect to everyone watching. Then he turned to Torax and bowed deeply in the way of human warriors. Torax bowed back, and in that moment, something changed forever in the world of the Kravex. A human had shown them that strength could come from a place they had never looked before. Strength could come from preparation. Strength could come from discipline. Strength could come from respect. After the trial, everything in the Kravex settlement changed. Teo was no longer seen as an outsider or a threat. He was now seen as a teacher and a wise being who had knowledge worth learning. Kira brought a formal request to the council of the clan. She asked that Teo be allowed to stay and to teach the young warriors of the Kravex people. The council discussed this for several days and nights. But the decision was never really in doubt. Elder Torax had accepted Teo. Torax had shown the entire clan that the human was worthy of respect. If the greatest warrior of the Kravex could bow to the human, then no one else could argue. The council voted, and the decision was unanimous. Teo was granted the position of teacher. He was given a place of honor in the settlement. He was given access to all the resources he needed to train the young warriors, and he was given something even more valuable. He was given the respect and acceptance of the entire Kravex clan. Within weeks, dozens of young Kravex came to learn the stretching routine that everyone was now calling fighter pose. News of the battle had spread far beyond the settlement. Warriors from other territories wanted to learn from the human who had defeated Torax. Young cubs wanted to understand the power that came from this strange ritual. Teo worked from sunrise to sunset, teaching warrior after warrior. He taught them the basic stretches first. He taught them breathing techniques. He taught them the philosophy behind the movements. He explained that preparation was not a sign of weakness. Preparation was a sign of respect for yourself and your opponents. A warrior who was not prepared was not brave. A warrior who was not prepared was careless. Lysa became his senior student and assistant. She was so skilled now that she could teach the basic stretches herself. She had the respect of the older warriors because they could see her strength and control. Rin and Zar also helped, teaching younger cubs who came to learn from the human and his 3 student assistants. The stretching routine took on a deeper meaning in Kravex culture. What had started as a simple morning exercise was becoming something sacred and important. Warriors began their day with fighter pose, not just to stretch their muscles, but to prepare their minds for whatever challenges might come. Teachers explained to their students that this was what it meant to be a true warrior prepared in body and in mind. Kira worked with Teo to build a bridge between two very different species. She learned enough about human language and culture to understand Teo better. In return, Teo learned more about the ways of the Kravex. They talked about their different worlds, their different ways of living, their different beliefs about strength and honor. Teo told Kira about Earth, the world where he had grown up. He told her about his mother who had taught him to stretch every morning before starting his day. He told her about his family and his culture. He told her about the beauty of a blue ocean and a blue sky. Kira listened carefully, trying to imagine a world so different from Kravoks Prime. Kira told Teo about the history of the Kravex. She told him about great wars and great hunters. She told him about the importance of territory and family. She told him about the code of honor that governed everything the Kravex did. Teo listened and understood that the Kravex were not monsters or mindless predators. They were warriors with their own culture and their own values. More warriors began to gather in the clearing every morning. Hundreds of Kravex, from young cubs to ancient elders, came to perform fighter pose together. The sight was breathtaking. The clearing was filled with hundreds of predatory warriors, all moving in perfect unison, all stretching their bodies in the same rhythm. They breathed together. They moved together. They became not just warriors, but a community united by a single purpose and philosophy. Teo would stand at the front, and the thousands of Kravex would follow his movements. He would reach his arms up high. They would reach their arms up high. He would bend down. They would bend down. He would move through the dynamic stretches with speed and control. They would follow, becoming faster and stronger with each passing day. One morning, something remarkable happened. Torax came to the clearing and stood beside Teo. The massive elder warrior was going to lead the stretching routine alongside the human teacher. This was a powerful message to everyone watching. This said that Torax believed in what Teo was teaching. This said that even the greatest warriors of the Kravex could benefit from preparation and discipline. As Torax moved through the stretches, his massive body was clumsy compared to the smaller warriors, but his determination was clear. He pushed himself to learn and to improve, just as the younger Kravex did. The crowd watched in silence, seeing their greatest warrior humble himself before a human teacher. Teo's broken ship was slowly being repaired by Kravex craftsmen who had decided to help him. They worked on it using the trading relationships the Kravex had with other species. Slowly, parts were brought in to fix the damage from the crash. Gradually, the ship was becoming whole again. This made Teo sad. He knew that a working ship meant he could leave. He knew that one day a rescue vessel would come, and he would have to decide whether to go back to his people or to stay on Kravoks Prime. Lissa noticed that Teo was sad sometimes. She asked him why. Teo told her that he had a home far away. He told her that his people would be looking for him. He told her that one day a ship would come to take him away from Kravoks Prime. The thought made both of them sad. But Lissa understood something important. She understood that Teo had given the Kravex something precious. He had given them a way to become stronger and better. He had shown them that wisdom and discipline were as important as strength and power. He had changed their entire culture in ways that would last for many generations. This was a gift that could never be taken away, no matter what happened. The Kravex settlement was no longer a place of only hunters and predators. It was becoming a place of warriors who thought carefully and prepared seriously for every challenge. The morning ritual of fighter pose had become something that defined the Kravex people. And it had started because one human decided to stretch when he woke up, a very long time ago.